King Charles has officially evicted Prince Andrew from Royal Lodge and banned Sarah Ferguson from all royal estates. Their royal privileges are gone. Andrew loses his titles. Sarah loses her access. This marks the harshest royal exile since 1936, a final blow that ends decades of protection, scandal, and denial. King Charles drops the hammer. On the morning of October 30th, 2025, a message was delivered to Royal Lodge, sealed with the royal crest and stamped with finality. Its contents were brief, but their impact was thunderous. Prince Andrew must vacate the Royal Lodge. Sarah Ferguson is banned from all royal residences indefinitely. The message bore King Charles III's official approval. And with that, the royal hammer came down. After months of behind-the-scenes tension, this was the moment royal aides had seen coming but hoped to avoid. The monarch had made his decision, one that would rewrite royal history. It wasn't just an eviction. It was a royal exile, the likes of which hadn't been seen since King Edward VIII's abdication in 1936. Charles had personally instructed the Privy Council to begin proceedings to strip Andrew of all remaining privileges, including his HRH styling, military honors, and annual financial allocation from the Duchy of Lancaster. He would now be known as Mr. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Not prince, not duke, just a man. Simultaneously, Sarah Ferguson, Duchess of York in name only, was formally barred from stepping foot on any Crown Estate property, including Balmoral, Sandringham, and Windsor Castle. Her decades-long informal residency at Royal Lodge had come to a bitter end. The palace issued a calm, calculated statement later that day. His Majesty the King has taken steps in consultation with the Privy Council to uphold the dignity and integrity of the Crown. Behind those polished words was a family in freefall. Charles had delayed this move for years. Loyalty to his brother, family history, and pressure from Queen Elizabeth's wishes had made him hesitate. But after one scandal too many, and the relentless public fury, the moment to act had finally arrived. By evening, Royal Lodge was buzzing with activity. Security began quietly preparing for relocation. Furniture assessments, confidential inventories, staff contracts under review. Sarah, reportedly blindsided, was said to be devastated. As for Andrew, sources claim he stared at the eviction notice in silence before muttering, "She would never have allowed this." A reference, no doubt, to his late mother. But King Charles had drawn the line. There would be no more royal immunity for disgrace. This wasn't just about one man. It was about the future of the monarchy. And the message was loud and clear. No one is above accountability, not even family. The scandal that wouldn't die. For years, the palace had tried to silence it. Reputations were managed. PR teams spun their stories. And behind velvet curtains, royal aides whispered strategies for survival. But no matter how many times they tried to move forward, Prince Andrew's scandal refused to fade. His connection to Jeffrey Epstein was more than a footnote. It became a defining shame. The moment that broke public trust came in 2019, during Andrew's now infamous BBC Newsnight interview. When asked about allegations by Virginia Giuffre, who claimed she was trafficked to him as a teenager, Andrew offered one of the most bizarre royal defenses in modern memory. "I couldn't have been with her that night. I was at Pizza Express in Woking." The line was meant to clear his name. Instead, it became a meme, a punchline, a national embarrassment. Worse, it revealed his complete lack of remorse. The public was stunned. Parliament was furious. And even members of the royal family began distancing themselves. But it didn't end there. Over the years, Giuffre's lawsuit, a £12 million settlement, and ongoing media investigations continued to dig deeper. The palace hoped time would dull the outrage. Instead, 2025 brought new fire. In October 2025, Giuffre released her memoir titled Nobody's Girl. It was an instant bestseller and a devastating read. The book detailed her experiences with Epstein, the trafficking ring, and most damning of all, her encounters with Andrew. Her account of his behavior was chilling, arrogant, dismissive, and completely detached from reality. She described him as a man who thought he was untouchable. Just days later, investigative journalists at the Times uncovered private email exchanges between Andrew and Epstein, sent months after Andrew claimed they had cut ties. One email read, "We rise above it, brother. This will pass." A clear sign of continued collusion and a devastating blow to Andrew's already damaged defense. The timing was explosive. The memoir and emails hit the press just as Charles was finalizing decisions about Andrew's role and residence. Advisors reportedly told the king, "If you delay any longer, the monarchy becomes complicit." The public pressure was overwhelming. Polls showed 87% of Britons supported Andrew's complete removal from royal life. And so, the hammer dropped. The final straw. New evidence surfaces. By late 2025, the royal family was already on edge. But what came next shattered any hope of quiet resolution. A new batch of explosive evidence surfaced, and this time it was undeniable. Emails retrieved from Jeffrey Epstein's encrypted server, once thought lost, were leaked during a joint international investigation into Epstein's financial empire. Among the files was something devastating: direct communication between Epstein and Prince Andrew, dating back to 2011 through 2015, years after Andrew had publicly claimed to cut ties. The tone of the emails was casual, almost brotherly. One message from Andrew read, "We rise above it, brother. They forget. They always do." Another discussed private meetings in Dubai and untraceable donations, raising red flags for investigators and outrage in the media. But the real firestorm came with the release of Virginia Giuffre's memoir, titled Nobody's Girl, published on October 15, 2025. Giuffre's book didn't just revisit past claims, it added graphic new details, never-before-shared timelines, and a clear picture of Andrew's ongoing entitlement even after public exposure. She accused him of using his royal position to evade consequences and painted a portrait of a man protected by power at every turn. The timing of her memoir was deliberate. Her legal team had waited for court settlements to conclude and NDAS to expire. Now, with nothing holding her back, she told the full story. And it was impossible to ignore. Social media exploded. Hashtags like #RemoveAndrew and #MonarchyWithMorals trended globally. Even public figures, once silent, began to speak out. And inside Buckingham Palace, King Charles had seen enough. According to a palace insider, a high-level meeting was called just 2 days after the memoir's release. Charles was handed both the leaked emails and a pre-release copy of the book. After several hours, he reportedly said, "We cannot carry this shame any longer. It ends now." The decision to banish Andrew and cut off Sarah Ferguson was signed within the week. The palace issued an updated statement, acknowledging the disturbing new revelations, and affirmed that no member of the royal family is immune from consequence. For Charles, the evidence had crossed a line that could no longer be blurred. The monarchy had chosen survival over silence. Royal Lodge, from royal sanctuary to scandal site. For nearly 2 decades, Royal Lodge was Prince Andrew's refuge, a grand estate with lush gardens, ivy-covered stone, and royal history etched into every wall. But as of November 2025, it was no longer a sanctuary. It had become a crime scene of reputation, tainted by scandal and secrets. Originally built in the 17th century, Royal Lodge holds deep emotional weight. It was once home to King George VI and later the Queen Mother, who adored its quiet elegance and proximity to Windsor. When she passed in 2002, Andrew swiftly secured a 75-year lease for a symbolic £1 per year, a sweetheart deal only possible through royal privilege. He invested £7.5 million of his own money into renovations, turning the estate into a luxurious royal retreat. By 2008, his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson had moved back in, despite their divorce more than a decade earlier. They claimed it was for family stability, especially for their daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. In reality, Royal Lodge became their private kingdom, tucked away from judgment and responsibility. But as the Epstein scandal erupted, the estate's protective walls became a PR liability. It became the backdrop for tabloid photos, secret meetings, and hushed whispers. Royal Lodge was no longer a relic of royal grace. It was now a symbol of unchecked privilege. Worse still, in mid-2025, new financial reports revealed that Andrew had not paid maintenance costs in over a year, relying instead on Crown Estate subsidies and undisclosed financial help from unnamed donors. The palace was livid. Charles had warned Andrew months earlier that continued occupancy required accountability. He had ignored it. The tipping point came when public scrutiny turned to Sarah Ferguson, who had quietly resumed royal engagements despite no official status. Her continued presence at Royal Lodge only fueled criticism, and when her ties to Epstein re-emerged, including a newly surfaced email calling him a supreme friend, Charles made the decision final. Royal Lodge would be cleared completely. A team of estate officials began assessing the property for transition. Staff were given notices. Fergie was told to pack up and leave by year's end. The fate of Royal Lodge now hangs in the balance. Some believe Prince William and Princess Catherine could move in, reclaiming it for a new generation. Others think it may be converted into a public historic site, an attempt to wash away the stains of scandal. But for now, it sits in eerie silence, a palace of ghosts, abandoned by the very royals who once swore it was home. From refuge to relic, Royal Lodge has fallen, its legacy consumed by the truth. Sarah Ferguson, banned and cut off. For decades, Sarah Ferguson lingered at the edges of royal life, never fully inside, never entirely out. She walked the gardens of Royal Lodge like she belonged there, smiled politely at public events, and gave interviews as if she were still part of the firm. But in November 2025, that illusion shattered. King Charles delivered a decision as final as it was brutal. Sarah Ferguson was officially banned from all royal estates. The order wasn't ceremonial, it was calculated, and it came after a shocking discovery inside a long-forgotten server tied to Epstein's estate. Cyber experts uncovered an email written by Sarah in 2010, addressed directly to Jeffrey Epstein. Her words were warm, even affectionate. "You've always been a supreme friend during uncertain times." It wasn't just tone, it was timing. This email came after Epstein's first conviction. For Charles and his aides, that single line ended any debate. Sarah had publicly denounced Epstein for years, insisting she'd been fooled. But this private message revealed something different. something closer, something unforgivable. Behind palace doors, senior advisors agreed. Her continued presence at Royal Lodge, just outside Windsor, posed a threat to the crown's fragile image. She wasn't just Andrew's ex-wife anymore. She was now viewed as a liability. The ban was absolute. No more stays at Balmoral. No more visits to Sandringham. No more appearances at Windsor or Buckingham, not even as a guest. A formal notice was issued quietly, and she was told to vacate Royal Lodge by December 31st. Friends say Sarah was heartbroken. Privately, she wept. Her entire life, post-divorce, had depended on her connection to Andrew and her royal past. Now that thread was severed. She had no royal residence, no official income, no protective shield from the press or public. She's now searching for a private home in Oxfordshire, away from palace grounds, but close enough to her daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie. Her charity work and media appearances may continue, but without the royal glow, the future looks uncertain. Inside sources say Beatrice was devastated by the news, Eugenie furious, but even they understood. The crown comes first, and in Charles's monarchy, there are no second chances when reputations are at stake. Charles. Acts, blood ties no longer enough. It was the decision no monarch wants to make. But King Charles knew the time had come. After years of restraint, after public backlash and private warnings, he finally acted. And when he did, it was swift, public, and complete. Prince Andrew was stripped of everything. The move was triggered by a classified briefing presented to Charles in the days following Virginia Giuffre's explosive memoir. The report included polling from across the Commonwealth, showing a steep decline in public trust whenever Andrew appeared, even in ceremonial roles. One royal source said the report's conclusion was blunt. The monarchy cannot carry him anymore. Charles had tried everything: quiet warnings, reduced roles, internal pressure. But the scandals kept returning. First the interview, then the lawsuits, then the Epstein leaks. And now, with Sarah's private emails exposed, the crisis reached a point of no return. In late October 2025, Charles signed a formal decree. Andrew was no longer to be styled as Prince, but simply Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. His security allowance, state housing rights, and royal engagements were terminated. The statement from Buckingham Palace was short but clear. The crown must reflect the values of the nation. These changes are necessary regardless of past denials. Privately, Charles was torn. Sources close to the palace say he mourned the loss of his brother's dignity, but not the loss of his presence. In his view, loyalty to family could no longer outweigh duty to the institution. Camilla reportedly stood by him. Princess Anne supported the move fully. Even William, usually silent on family issues, is believed to have encouraged the decision behind the scenes. This wasn't just a personal rebuke. It was a public reset, a message to Britain and the world that blood alone no longer protects anyone, not even a son of the late Queen. As for Andrew, he's expected to relocate to a small property within Sandringham, privately funded and outside the royal spotlight. For Sarah, there is no such arrangement. Their decades-long partnership, unconventional, codependent, and controversial, is over. And for Charles? The burden may be heavy, but the message is clear. The monarchy survives by adapting, not by protecting the past. Andrew and Sarah, end of an era. For years, they were the strangest love story in the royal family. Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson, long divorced but still living together, laughing together, even defending each other when no one else would. Royal watchers called it bizarre. Loyalists called it touching. But now, that royal oddity is officially over. When King Charles's decree arrived, it wasn't just a message to Andrew, it was a message to both of them. The era of shared luxury at Royal Lodge had ended. Their long-standing arrangement, a divorced couple cohabiting under royal protection, was no longer tolerated. And just like that, the illusion of unity crumbled. The truth is, Royal Lodge wasn't just a home. It was a fortress, a bubble where Andrew and Sarah could shield themselves from cameras, criticism, and consequences. Inside its high gates, they raised Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, hosted garden parties, and staged a version of family that never truly existed outside those walls. Sarah had always defended Andrew, even during his darkest scandals. She gave interviews insisting he was a kind man, a good father, and utterly innocent. At one point, she told a friend, "The world doesn't know him like I do." But now, loyalty has cost her everything. Insiders say Sarah was devastated, not only by her personal banishment, but by the end of their carefully protected world. There were no goodbyes, no public statements, no final photo of them waving from the Royal Lodge balcony. Just silence and locked gates. Andrew, too, was forced to face a new reality. No palace privilege, no royal title, and no more shared life with the only woman who'd stood by him. Sources close to the family describe a cold, clinical separation, with legal teams quietly coordinating their moves behind the scenes. The daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie, are said to be navigating a painful transition. While still protected by their titles and public affection, they've watched both parents become symbols of scandal and shame. One aide described the mood in the family as funeral-like, not for a person, but for the image they once upheld. And as the locks change and the portraits come down, one truth remains. This chapter of royal codependency is closed for good. What happens to Royal Lodge now? With Andrew evicted and Sarah banned, a question now echoes through the halls of power. What will happen to Royal Lodge? The 30-room estate, elegant, historic, and once sacred, now feels like a tainted relic. Once the childhood home of Queen Elizabeth II and the beloved retreat of the Queen Mother, Royal Lodge is stained with scandal. Until now, Andrew held a 75-year lease, secured for just £1 per year, an arrangement that was controversial even when granted in 2003. He poured £7.5 million of his own money into renovations, believing it would be his forever home. But, in the eyes of King Charles, no lease, no matter how long, outweighs the Crown's reputation. The official revocation of Andrew's rights has returned the estate to full royal control. And now, speculation is running wild. Some insiders believe Prince William and Princess Catherine may take up residence, turning the estate into a fresh symbol of royal renewal. The space, large enough for their growing family and near Adelaide Cottage, offers privacy and proximity to Windsor Castle. Others believe the estate could be opened to the public, much like Frogmore House, as a way of cleansing its reputation and restoring its historical dignity. Still, the emotional weight of the property, tied so deeply to Elizabeth and her mother, makes any decision complicated. There's also the possibility of keeping it vacant for now, allowing the dust of scandal to settle before reclaiming the space with new life and meaning. Palace sources say King Charles is personally involved in the decision, weighing not just logistics, but symbolism. Whatever happens next, one thing is certain: Royal Lodge will never again be what it was. It will no longer be a hideout for fallen royals, nor a backdrop for unresolved marriages. That door has closed. The estate, like the monarchy itself, is being cleared of shadows, ready to be reshaped, retold, and eventually reborn. The public has spoken. Enough is enough. For years, the British public had watched in disbelief as Prince Andrew clung to privilege while dodging accountability. The scandals surrounding his connection to Jeffrey Epstein, the disastrous 2019 Newsnight interview, and his continued presence at Royal Lodge were tolerated longer than many believed they should have been. But now, that patience has finally snapped, and the public voice is louder than ever. After King Charles's announcement, public opinion shifted from quiet resentment to thunderous approval. On the day the eviction was confirmed, #NoMoreRoyalsForAndrew trended across social media. Prominent MPs and royal commentators praised the decision, with one member of Parliament bluntly stating, "The monarchy cannot survive another era of secrecy and silence." Outside Windsor, protesters from the group Republic gathered, waving banners that read, "Justice, not privilege," and "Evict the rot, not just the royals." The energy was undeniable. People no longer wanted symbolic gestures. They wanted accountability. And for many, Andrew's removal wasn't just about scandal. It was about trust in the entire royal institution. Talk radio hosts, daytime TV presenters, and even celebrities weighed in. Public polls taken that same week showed nearly 73% of respondents supported the full removal of Andrew's royal titles. Even former supporters admitted it was time. One royal biographer summed it up best. "This isn't punishment, it's preservation." The fallout also sparked a deeper conversation about how the monarchy manages its internal affairs. Why had Andrew been protected for so long? Why had Sarah remained inside royal circles despite her own controversies? Questions swirled, and pressure mounted for further reforms. But amid the noise, there was clarity. The monarchy had drawn a line. No more immunity for family members simply because of birthright. And that message didn't just come from Buckingham Palace. It came from the streets, the headlines, and the hearts of millions. The people had spoken, and the crown finally listened. Sarah alone, Andrew in exile. The final act in this royal reckoning is one of isolation. With Royal Lodge lost, Sarah Ferguson now faces a life stripped of the comforts she once considered permanent. Friends say she is renting a private estate in Oxfordshire, far removed from the royal orbit that once defined her world. Gone are the perks. Gone are the invitations. Gone is the daily rhythm of Windsor life. She is no longer welcome at Sandringham, Balmoral, or even the back gardens of Clarence House. It's not just exile, it's erasure. Meanwhile, Prince Andrew is being quietly moved to a small, privately funded residence on the edge of the Sandringham estate, far from public view. This is not a royal posting. There will be no engagements, no titles, and no state funding. His guards are being reassigned, his office disbanded. He is, effectively, a man without a kingdom. Insiders describe the atmosphere between Andrew and Sarah as tense, but resigned. While they had stood side by side for decades, even defending each other during the worst of public backlash, this chapter has driven a wedge between them. Sarah is said to feel abandoned and used. Andrew, sources say, is quietly bitter but powerless. Their daughters, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, continue to offer emotional support, but both have careers, families, and reputations to protect. They will not follow their parents into exile. As the dust settles, this isn't just a story of scandal, It's a story of consequences. A prince lost his titles, a duchess lost her home, and the monarchy lost 2 more members in a bid to save itself. King Charles's message could not be clearer. This is not his mother's monarchy. Tradition will no longer protect those who damage the crown. And so, with the gates of Royal Lodge now locked behind them, Andrew and Sarah disappear quietly into royal history. Not as victims, not as heroes, but as a cautionary tale. Their royal chapter is closed. Charles drew the line. Titles stripped, homes lost. Loyalty couldn't save them this time.